A used boat buyer should be like a good detective, looking for clues to past sins and future problems. Was this boat a good kid or a problem child? Stay tuned for Used Boat Problems. Hi, I'm Sean from Lens Cove Lessons in Boating. Are you paralyzed by the fear of buying a lemon? Want to just avoid costly mistakes that are going to drain your bank account and rob you of a weekend on the water? We have purchased thousands of used boats over the years. That's essentially what happens when we take a boat on trade, and we've made all of these mistakes before. By the end of this video, you're going to understand all the most common problems and how to really assess a good used boat in about 20 minutes or less. Stick around to the end of this video when I give you 4 pro tips on how to quickly determine if a boat is going to have a problem and look for clues that others will miss. In this video, we're going to cover exterior hull inspection, exterior drive checks, engine compartment checks, and interior checks. Shopping for a boat is a lot of fun, and thinking about the future usage of it will really blur your vision when it comes to finding problems. First place to start is on the outside of the boat. You want to take a good overall look at the boat and look for problem areas. You want to look for damage on the rub rail, anything that looks like it's rubbed up against the dock. You want to look for cracking in the hull. Look to see if there's any superficial or structural damage in the top coat of the gel coat. You want to look for componentry that's worn or broken, missing components like these two, and overall just the condition of the boat and how it's taken care of. This boat has a little bit of cracking here, and one of the most common areas of concern is the hull bottom itself. Get yourself a good cart, a piece of plywood or some carpet, and get down on your hands and knees or on your back and really look over the boat hull in detail. If the boat is in the water, insist that it gets pulled out of the water for your inspection before you sign off and pay for it. You're going to look for things like old repairs, and that's where you see there's a discoloration or a different color between what the majority of the boat is and what you see in a spot. You're going to look for things like blisters, things that look like little pimples, and they're called osmotic blisters. Does it have any? You're going to look for things like cracking and crazing. So really take a good look. The boat hulls aren't usually perfect. They sit a lot of time in the water, but there shouldn't be any visual damage, and if there is, you need to find out why. With any of the things that I'm telling you today, none of them are particularly deal breakers, but when you spot things, ask questions and make sure you're happy with the answers to the questions. When you're looking at a stern drive powered boat, the outdrive should have very little damage to the lower unit. Some little minor chips are fine. The propeller, this one has a big curl in it, so it's obviously been hit before. So you want to make sure that the outdrive lower unit, whether it's on a stern drive or an outboard, looks like it hasn't been abused or hit in the bottom of the lake. The next thing you want to do is you want to push the drive side to side like this and make sure there isn't any excess play. If the drive swings significantly, it means that some of the steering components are worn. The other thing you'll want to do is trim the drive up and check these rubber bellows that are in here. Those are the components that keep your boat from sinking, essentially. Wherever there's a hole in the back of the boat, there's a rubber bellows that keeps water from penetrating the boat. So you're going to want to look for cracks, tears, and also touch them and squeeze them to make sure they're soft and supple and they aren't ready to be replaced. Check for corrosion on the drive. This drive is just a little bit dirty, but there is no visible corrosion on it. You're going to want to look for a lot of grayed metal and holes or pitting in the drive. If you see those, you want to ask questions. When the drive's tipped down, if you see any excessive oil, look around the bullet and around any sealing points and make sure you don't see any oil dripping out. Engine compartments aren't the cleanest places in the world, so don't allow a little dirt and grime to put you off. However, a spotless bilge usually means that someone took very good care of it, and a dirty bilge means that someone didn't really care what it looks like inside. But the dirt itself won't really hurt anything. What you're looking for is more clues to mechanical issues. You're going to want to grab the hoses, give them a squeeze, make sure they're soft and supple. Look for cracking or deteriorating. These things don't mean that the engine's going to fail, but it may mean that you have some expense coming up. Take a look at the belt. Twist it over, make sure you don't see any cracking on the underside. The biggest thing you can look for in an engine bay is signs of corrosion. So look for rust, look for graying of metal, and one of the biggest worries that anyone has when buying a used boat is, has the engine been submerged or the boat sunk? And look for telltale tiles around the engine compartment. See if you can see any lines where water may have sat for an extended period of time. And don't be afraid to look underneath the engine to see if you can see rust on any of the bolts for the starter, or the alternator, or any of the componentry that's lower, because that may be an indication that water was in the bilge for a long period of time. You're going to want to check the lubricants, check the oil, check the lubricant in the lower unit outdrive. Make sure everything looks clean and well maintained. Check the battery condition. See if the terminals are cleaned, that the wiring is all in good shape, there's no cracking or loose terminals. Really go over it, almost pretending like you're a mechanic, or get a mechanic to take a good look for you. The inside of the boat is where you're going to spend the majority of your time, so you're going to want to pay close attention to how it looks and feels in here. One of the first things I always do is actually touch the vinyl. This is marine grade vinyl, and you should see and feel that it's soft to the touch, that it's pliable, that it doesn't feel like paper. When people use harsh chemicals on this, it actually thins it out and it becomes more brittle. Take the seams where the stitching is and pull it apart gently. Look for areas where the sewing is starting to come apart. Do every seam in the boat. Look for areas in the boat that aren't necessarily going to be problems for you, but maybe problems for the next buyer and going to cost you money. Take a good look around, open up every storage compartment, look for signs of water intrusion, look for cracks inside, look for areas where maybe animals have made nests. Take a really good look around. Also, take a good walk everywhere in the floor. Make sure you do a little bounce check. Often, particularly older boats, will have wood coring in the floor, and they'll absorb moisture and you'll get soft spots, which is a hint of future problems. So as you're going around the boat, really just look at it, grab every bit of hardware, wiggle the windshield, make sure everything is tight and nothing is damaged. On the sides, make sure that your hardware is all in good shape, that you don't see any cracking or loose componentry. All these things aren't deal breakers, but you may be able to use them in a negotiation when talking to your dealer or the private seller. One more thing to look for is an hour meter. This boat doesn't have one, and yet hopefully most boats do. Check out this video for a link on the hours and how they affect value of boats. Boats aren't cheap to buy, but they can be very inexpensive to own. That will totally change if you end up doing maintenance items that should have been done by the previous owner, find repairs that need doing before you can use the boat, or if you have any items that depreciate the value quicker than they should, like gel coat cracking, rips in the vinyl, or problems with the hull. So just remember to really take a close inspection, and that doesn't mean that you should avoid a boat that has a couple issues, because almost every boat will, but knowing what you're getting into is definitely good. Look at any used boat carefully, and if you aren't comfortable with the things that we inspected in this video, consider hiring a third-party trusted technician to go over the boat with you. And always, always, always insist on a lake test. An inspection is very valuable, but ultimately the time on the water is the most important thing. Take a look at this video for everything about a lake test, and also see a link in the description below. Pro tip number 1, propeller damage. See how this prop has a ding in it? There's something else for you to look for. Right here on the housing are 2 stamped numbers which tell you that this prop has been repaired twice before. Here is the prop number or the part number from the manufacturer. That one's fine. Pro tip number 2, One of the other things you're going to look for is this shaft being straight. It's very hard to see it visually. However, if you take a screwdriver and put it here and then rotate the shaft, any movement will be visible on the screwdriver against this cavitation plate. This will show you that that prop shaft is straight and that there hasn't been any significant impact before. Pro tip number 3. This is a Transport Canada vessel license number. Take a good look in this area here at an angle and look for changed in colors. As if this boat has been re-registered, you can often see fading in the area and see the outline of other letters. For example, you might see an MD or a PA or an NY, and this will hint to you that this boat has been registered in the US before, and that number has been changed to a Canadian-based number. New numbers in Canada are ON numbers. This one's a little older. However, if you see those numbers or the hint that there were numbers there before, stop and ask questions, because this boat came from somewhere else. Pro tip number 4 is, before you go to view the boat, ask the seller for the engine serial number. Then take that engine serial number and send it to your local dealer and ask them to run it through their manufacturer's database. That should tell you where that boat was initially sold and if any warranty claims were made against that engine while it was new. Thank you for joining us on Lents Cove Lessons in Boating for today's video. Remember to like this video and subscribe for more. Be safe, have fun, and we'll see you out on the water.